Welcome back to the final segment of the night. This government shutdown is now officially the longest in history. Now, Democrats such as Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries maintain their position on the Obamacare tax credits, even with SNAP funds on hold. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson has pleaded with Democrats to come to the table, a plea that seems to fall on deaf ears as the proposed continuing resolution has been voted against now 14 times. So joining us now to discuss the impact is the managing director at Americans for Prosperity, Kent Strang. Kent, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be with you tonight.
Great to have you. And I know you are dialed in on the inner workings up on Capitol Hill. What conversations are you hearing about maybe this coming to an end?
Sure. Well, I would love this to come to an end. As you mentioned, this is the longest government shutdown in American history. And what we're seeing is Chuck Schumer and Senate Democrats hold the American people hostage over their $1.5 trillion spending spree. And so what I would like to see is I would like to see Chuck Schumer finally give in to his demands, pass a clean CR at Biden level funding, and put this to rest and get folks back to work and get our military men and women and service members paid, our TSA agents, our air traffic controllers, our Coast Guard, our Border Patrol agents, and get back to business as usual so we can actually advocate for the policies that will lower costs for the American people.
How do you think last night's election results? Democrats seemed a little giddy and full of step today, and I wonder if they were thinking of folding and then we won really big yesterday, maybe we don't have to fold. Is there a danger that Democrats hold out longer because of the way they performed last night in the election?
Well, I think that remains to be seen, but we're seeing the far left progressive wing of the party control this. And we saw some of that last night. I think one of the biggest cheerleaders for the government shutdown right now is Bernie Sanders. And we see that Schumer is certainly eyeing the further left part of his party to meet their demands. And hopefully there are a few moderates that come to the table and join with the Republicans to bring our government open. But I think what we can look at is a lot of those races last night were in purple or blue areas. And I don't know if we can glean too much from that as the government shut down.
Yeah. There are a lot of folks on the SNAP program who desperately need this assistance. Now, this contingency fund, as I understand, it's supposed to be for war, it's supposed to be for catastrophe, but President Trump has been ordered to divvy it up amongst all of these folks. I think $145 billion is what it goes out to per year, so $5 billion is a drop in the bucket. Is that going to help Democrats? Is that going to move them along, the fact that this SNAP situation keeps rolling, and are Democrats seeing that they are to blame? Democrat voters, rather?
Sure, there are certainly folks impacted by SNAP benefits, and that's a difficult situation for folks. We don't want them to go hungry, but at the same time, there is a very easy solution to bring SNAP benefits back at its full funding, and that's for Chuck Schumer to come to the table, end this unproductive government shutdown. The government shutdowns typically lead to bad policy, and he can end this. But if we want to get folks fed, we want to get our service members back to work, back to being paid, we should end this government shutdown immediately.
I want to talk about the dirty secret of the shutdown because I think a lot of people don't understand this. I went through some of the big donors in the California Prop 50 race, and a lot of them are health insurance companies, some at like $500,000 million donations. Health insurers are the big winner in the shutdown because the Democrats are holding out so they can keep getting those subsidy checks. Not to us. We don't get them if we take Obamacare. They go to the insurance companies, which keep them whether the American people use that account or not. How do Americans get up to speed on the symbiosis that's now between health insurance carriers and these Obama subsidies?
Well, you're right. These subsidies go to big insurance, and it props up a failed ACA government healthcare. And what we're seeing that this is the spending spree that they want to be on. These were COVID era temporary subsidies that we no longer need. And so what we have found from the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid Services, that 60% of ACA enrollees have access to a plan that costs $50 or less. Now, that doesn't mean that some people won't see premiums increase, but a majority of folks who have ACA subsidized plans can get a plan for $50 or less per month. Not exactly the cataclysm that the Democrats are telling us about.
No. Not at all. I want to ask you before we let you go, because a lot of folks said that Trump is election poison, which is a pretty wild theory considering what happened last November. But you've got these three main Republican candidates that people have been talking about, and they didn't embrace Trump and they got crushed. So is that theory completely wrong?
Sure, I don't know if I buy into that theory, but I do buy into that. I think Republicans have to get back at what they're great at, and that is lowering costs for the American people. And we look at why were Democrats fired in the last election? Well, they were fired because they spent $5.5 trillion in new spending that led to 40-year high inflation. It led to massive increases in costs, higher energy prices, and Republicans came along and they put an end to that out of control government spending. In the one big beautiful bill, they extended President Trump's tax cuts. They made it so the average American family would save $1,500 more, and they staved off the biggest tax hike in American history. They also cut $1 trillion of spending in the one big beautiful bill. And now Chuck Schumer wants another $1.5 trillion in spending. And so I think what Republicans should really focus on is lowering inflation, cutting wasteful government spending, and making sure that we can deliver on cost and passing policies like permitting reform that can get the government out of the way and the regulatory burdens out of the way so we can lower energy costs for our home heating and for our cars and gasoline.
Yep. Kent Strang, Managing Director of Americans for Prosperity. Thanks so much for being here. We'll have you back on soon.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right, everybody, look at what we got.
Check this out. I'm going shopping early for Christmas. These are the brand new Trump coins that are at trumpcoins.com. Go check them out. I got some for gifts. These are perfect mint. They're like 70, which is like the most perfect version of a new coin you can get. Brand new. They just came out today. I bought a couple. You guys should too. Trumpcoins.com. Go check them out. They're pretty cool. Trumpcoins.com.
I love it. That's all we have for tonight, everybody. We'll be back here at 6 p.m. Eastern tomorrow.